Hello, today I'll be going over 9.1, which is apply the distance and midpoint formulas. So here's the distance formula. Distance is the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. And the midpoint formula is when you would add the two x coordinates and divide it by 2, and you add the two y coordinates and divide that by 2. In this first section, we want to find the distance between the 2 points and then find the midpoint of the line segment joining the 2 points. So for the distance, we're going to plug this into the distance formula. So we got d equals the square root of 6 minus 10 squared plus negative 3 plus 9 squared, because it's minus negative 9, which becomes plus 9. So we get d equals negative 4 squared plus 6 squared. Negative 4 squared is 16 and 6 squared is 36. So we get d equals the square root of 52. And we can break up 52 into 4 and 13. And 4 breaks up into 2 and 2. So we have a pair of 2's that will come out of the square root. So that's going to be 2 rad 13. And that's the distance. Then for the midpoint, we can plug it into the midpoint formula. So that's going to be 6 plus 10 divided by 2 and negative 3 minus 9 divided by 2. So we get 16 over 2 and negative 12 over 2, which is going to be 8 and negative 6. Here's our next 2 points. So for the distance, that's going to be the square root of 11 minus 18 squared plus negative 12 minus 12 squared. So we get negative 7 squared plus negative 24 squared. And that's going to be 49 plus 576, which is 625, and the square root of 625 is 25. So the distance between these 2 points is 25. Then for the midpoint, this will be 11 plus 18 over 2 and negative 12 plus 12 over 2. So that's going to be 29 over 2 and 0 over 2, which is 0. Okay, next we want to find or figure out if the triangles are scalene, isosceles, or equilateral based on the vertices of the triangle that are given. So a scalene triangle has no same lengths, isosceles triangles have 2 same lengths, and equilateral triangles have 3 of the same lengths. So to keep things kind of organized, I'm going to call them A, B, and C, because I have to find the 3 lengths. So for AB, I have to find the distance. So that's going to be the square root of negative 5 minus 0 squared plus 0 minus 6 squared, which is negative 5 squared plus negative 6 squared. That's going to be 25 plus 36, and that's going to be the square root of 61. And then I have to find another length, so let's say BC. So that's going to be 0 minus 5 squared plus 6 minus 0 squared. So that's negative 5 squared plus 6 squared, 25 plus 36, and we get a square root of 61. And then the last one we have to find is AC. So that'll be negative 5 minus 5 squared plus 0 minus 0 squared. So that is square root of negative 10 squared, which is square root of 100, which is 10. So we're looking at these three lengths, or the distance that we got. Two of them are the same, so that means this is an isosceles triangle. Here's our next triangle. So again, I'm just going to letter them or name them A, B, and C just to keep things a little more organized. So for AB, that's going to be the square root of -1 minus 1 squared plus -6 minus 1 squared. So that's -2 squared plus -7 squared. That's going to be 4 plus 49, which is the square root of 53. Next, let's find BC. So that's going to be 1 minus 4 squared plus 1 plus 5 squared. That's -3 squared plus 6 squared, which is 9 plus 36, and that's square root of 45. And the last one is AC. So that's going to be the square root of -1 minus 4 squared plus -6 plus 5 squared. So we get -5 squared plus -1 squared. That's going to equal square root of 25 plus 1, which is the square root of 26. So next we have to compare the length. So we have square root of 53, square root of 45, and square root of 26. And since none of them are the same, that means this is a scalene triangle. Okay, next we want to write an equation for the perpendicular bisector of the line segment joining the 2 points. So perpendicular means it's going to have the negative reciprocal slope, and bisector means it cuts it exactly in half. So that means we have to find the midpoint as well. So first, let's find the slope. The slope of this is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So that's going to be 8 minus 6 over 1 plus 5. So that's 2 over 6, which is 1/3. But since we want this to be a perpendicular bisector, that means we want the slope of the perpendicular line. Since our line has a slope of 1/3, the perpendicular slope would be the negative reciprocal, which is -3. Next, we have to find the point that we want to use. So since we want the bisector, we have to find the midpoint. So the midpoint is going to be -5 plus 1 over 2 and 6 plus 8 over 2. So that's going to be, -4 over 2 and 14 over 2. So that's -2 and 7. So now we're going to use this slope and this point and plug it into point slope form. So point slope form is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. So that's going to be y minus 7 equals -3 times x plus 2. And we want to rewrite this into slope-intercept form. So we get y minus 7 equals -3x minus 6. So we distributed the -3, and then we're going to add 7 to both sides. So we get y equals -3x plus 1. Okay, number 6. We're looking for the same thing, so again, we're first going to find the slope. So that's going to be 6 minus 1 over -6 minus 4, which is 5 over -10. Oh, oops, sorry. That's going to be -6 minus 4 over 6 minus 1. I did x on top. Okay, so that's going to be negative 10 over 5, which is negative 2. So that means the slope of the perpendicular line is the negative reciprocal, which is 1/2. Then we have to find the point that it goes through. So we have to find the midpoint, which is going to be 1 plus 6 over 2 and 4 minus 6 over 2. That's going to be 7 over 2 and negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So we're using these 2 points and plugging it into point slope form. So we get y plus 1 equals 1/2 times x minus 7 over 2. So we're going to distribute the 1/2. Get y plus 1 equals 1/2 x minus 7 over 4. And we have to subtract 1, which is the same as subtracting 4 over 4. Since we have a fraction, I'm just changing it so they have the same denominator. So that'll be negative 11 over 4.